Down there in the warmth. You just hit okay then. There you go.
Good.
Although, why is, I guess that's how it's supposed to look. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Don Miller is on remote, so welcome, Don. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item is consent agenda. Recommended action: approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda. 6A, minutes of the Board of Education. 8A, policy second reads. 8B, resolution for the disposal of personal property. 8D, regionalization planning process opt-out. And 8E, special education. May I have a motion, please?
I move.
John and Colleen. Any discussion or removal of anything?
Don, can you hear us?
Sorry.
Don, can you hear us? Okay.
8C, AV reduction, it has it listed on it as consent, but it's not listed in the consent resolution.
Oh.
8C.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I see that. I'll add it in.
So 8C is also under consent?
Yep. Thank you very much.
In any event, if there's no discussion, please vote.
Don, can you vote?
Yes, can you, I can't see the vote, but can you see my?
Yes. Okay, so that is 6 yes.
Okay, we have one presentation this evening, and we'd like to welcome Sarah Allen, who is going to give us the annual report on the special education placement rates and programming. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Let me just get the board set up here. Just up for you.
We don't do that. Thank you very much. Bother you that much?
I need it.
Special
What
ed.
I have to
Shaking
help me
master.
with is I probably need to be able to share this.
Oh, yeah.
with-
I can do that, sir.
Can you do that on
Sure,
your
just give
end
me a
so that we
second.
can share?
Start. So.
Don, are you able to see that too on your end?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, good.
Okay, great.
And then, is this the? How
This
do you
is it. I
circulate
will, I
the
think I can
slides?
do it.
You'll roll?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right.
All right.
Colleen, when she's done, go back to the.
I do want,
It's okay. Just go back afterwards. Just no, you
you
keep
sure?
going.
Because I can, okay,
Yeah,
that's
it's fine.
okay.
It's fine.
That's okay. Thanks for having me here tonight. Thank you for taking a few minutes to hear about the special education department. We'll go over some slides. Some of you may be a little familiar with this format, but it does get an update each year as we look at it, and it helps us to see the consistency over several years. So just ask questions. Any questions you have, feel free to ask, and I'll go through this a little bit at a time. So the first slide is our population overview here, and you can see we have from 2021 to this year, 2024, 2025. Not much change, pretty steady there, I would say. It really does stay pretty steady with our consistency of classifications and identifications of students from year to year. even though our population has gone up and down, the classification rates stayed pretty consistent throughout. K through 12 instructional staff. This has also stayed somewhat consistent. I'm not sure there's, pull that up a little more so you can see the legend there. I will say, look, we have reduced some staff, which has made, I was looking at the related services in particular, and this really hasn't changed year to year, but I think the way the percentages are configured, when you take that whole number, that's changed those percentages a little bit. But it is pretty consistent. You do see a small change in the teaching assistants. We did work on moving a couple of teaching assistants into helping with our English language learners. And I think that that is what is making that small change there. Any questions about? Oops. Find the right spot. Our placement levels so we have preschools ungraded is when I have a student that they have to have specific qualifications, but they're under what's called the New York State alternate assessment. They are considered ungraded because those students would have the option to go to, they usually are students that we will see stay through the age of 22. So we often, other students could stay through that age, but our ungraded students are usually make up the population of students that have significant needs and are not taking Regents exams. They're having a different type of, their education is unique to them, and they're working on other standards and skills as they go through school. Our high school does have has more students in it, and also has our greater amount of the population of identified students with IEPs and 504s in it. But you can see there was a small increase at the elementary school as well. We did have some additional students enter at the beginning of this year with some needs. So you'll see that increase. And preschool has remained consistent over the last 2 years. And then if I was to go back farther, you would see a year or two where preschool was even larger than it is right now. Thanks, Tim. If only we were in sync, we would have it perfect. Okay, continuum of services. So you see a lot of documents come through from me that list different services on it. So this is a quick breakdown of that continuum of services. Our services, and you'll see on another slide, it's going to show you the service that predominantly most of our students get is this very first service listed, this consultant teacher service. So on a lot of our recommendations that come through, you'll see that service. That service is provided in the general education setting. So it's, say, a student's in a math class and they have a direct consultant teacher in math. There's 2 teachers in that classroom for them. There is the math teacher and there's a special education teacher in that classroom. And that service is done in a group format. So it's not an individual service with a student. It's a group of students that are in that classroom that teacher's working with, that both teachers are working with. And then resource room is probably the second service that you'll see recommended the most, and that goes along. A lot of times you'll see consultant teacher services and resource room services go together. Resource room services work on those specialized skills those students need to improve. So a lot of times we try to link the consultant teacher with the resource room. So it's the same teacher so they can see them in the classroom, see some of those skill deficits, and then have them in resource room. It doesn't always happen that way, but we do try to keep that consistent for students. Related services, you're looking at counseling and speech, OT, and PT services that we offer here in district. Integrated co-teaching, right now we do not have this service going on. This is a in-between service between a consultant teacher and a special class. So this service is for those students that maybe they've been in a special class and we think they can be in the gen ed setting, but they need a little more support. They may need grading in a different way. And then we would recommend more of an integrated co-teaching service. There is a star next to that because all of these service levels have a certain amount of minutes that you need to do and provide for them, except integrated co-teaching services do not count towards those minutes. So it's a unique in that way. 15 to 1, 12 to 1 special classes, all of these special classes that you see, if you'll scroll just a little more, Tim.
Of course.
All of those services that you see there, or these special classes that you see here, are more specialized instruction. This is when the student is not going in to the general education setting. They're having a special class with a special education teacher leading that classroom. So more individualized instruction for that student. We do try to keep all of our students in the gen ed setting as much as possible. They have a lot of good peer role models, and they more exposure to other thoughts and ideas because there's more students in those classrooms. But sometimes students just need a more specialized instruction. And so those numbers, 15 to 1, the first number when you look at it on all of those is the number of students that can be in that setting at that time. That's the max number. And then the second number is the support of the teacher. So 15 to 1 would be 15 students to 1 teacher. You get down to like an 8 to 1 to 1 that we have here. That's 8 students at max, 1 teacher, 1 teaching assistant in that room. So the supports increase as you go down the special class piece. And then a 12 to 1 to 3 to 1 is usually for students that have multiple disabilities. So they are probably receiving a lot of related services. They're also receiving a lot of specialized instruction too. Any questions about that? Oh. This next one goes along with the one I just talked about because it kind of tells you where our services are. So consultant teacher is the service that is recommended the most for students as we look, with resource room being second, and then they go down through. So you can see we do have a teacher of the visually impaired who's working for, who comes up a couple times a week and works with some students in our district as well. So you can see that is not, if you look in years past, that one's not always there, but it is this year and partway through last year. Do you have any questions about that?
The graphics are great, very readable.
And then, so for students, when they are going to receive an IEP, there's 13 classifications for disability. So these are the 13 classifications, plus if it's a preschool student, they fall under the classification preschooler with a disability. The majority of the students that we're working with have learning disabilities, and that could be in a variety of areas. So, but we also, so when we consider a student, we look at what classification is the best consideration for them based on their needs. The least restrictive environment, I talked a little bit about that just a minute ago, but this is an important slide, and you're going to see I kept this on because I think this tells more of the story. So there's a little jump in time because I can no longer fit them all on. I used to squeeze them on, ran out of room. So this is 13-14, and you can see students in gen ed education was lower than our 80% or more of the time, was lower than our 40 to 79% of the time. And that what that was meaning is we had more students out of the classroom receiving services than we had in the classroom receiving services. And so we worked really hard over these years to turn that around. And so you can see over the years we've made good growth, and right now we still have the majority of our students are receiving services in their gen ed. They are in the gen ed setting 80% or more of their day. We do have some that might need more time in a setting where they have more supports, and that's this. And then we have some of our students that have intense services, and they would be that less than 40% of the time in the gen ed setting.
Sarah, are there certain determining factors that, could you give an example of what might bump a student from the gen ed setting down to the 40 to 79%? Could it be behavioral issues? Could it be just needs that they have that?
It's usually more, it's need-based. They could have some behavioral needs, but that doesn't always mean that. It could also be a student that needs a direct consult service, a resource room service, and they're getting a speech or an OT or PT service. And so then their amount of minutes out of the class could, direct consult actually wouldn't count, but resource room, OT, PT, speech, if they had a number of services, they could also fall in that green category. These are comparisons from for other districts. So this is always a little bit behind because I take it off the state report cards. And so those are always a year behind before we can get that, well, 2 years behind before we can get that data. So you can see a lot of us have really throughout the region worked on bringing our time of students in the least restrictive environment up so that they're in that setting more. For some reason, Pepper Lakes was not available, so that's why hopefully next year I'll be able to have that on there. So this is last year, our information from last year's graduation. This is completers. So these are students that completed. Out of those students that completed, 68% were general education students, 27% were students with disabilities or they had IEPs, and 3% were students with 504. So those pieces of our completers, they received a diploma. We did have 2% of our students received what's called a career and development and occupational studies credential. So they received a credential, and that is another way for them to complete. It's just a little bit different than a diploma. So they met all of the criteria they needed to for that credential. We do have some students that are parentally placed in non-public schools in our district. So for our district, if a student has services or needs services and they are at some of our private schools that fall within our borders, it's our district's responsibility to be their CSE. So we meet with those families. We provide evaluations for those students if they need them. We do provide some related services and supports that go into St. Agnes as well. And then some students come right here and get some services and supports too. So these, we work with those families that have students with disabilities that are placed in private schools within our district. And then we do have some students that have home instruction and have services or need services as well. And so currently we have a couple of those students in our district, and they receive services at school here, coming to school and having those services. Another piece that we keep implementing in our building on is the, for short, we call it TCIS training, Therapeutic Crisis Intervention for Schools. So let's say up there, 2023, we were recertified. So that must mean 2021, there are 4 in-house trainers for TCIS that were trained in 2021. And then you can see that we've built on the number of people that have been trained in-house. So September 2022, we had 9 fully trained staff. We just finished a full training. So right now, my current number that I counted is we're up to 41 fully trained staff. So just slowly building that capacity there. This allows, what the training does is it works on skills to help prevent a crisis situation, right? To help de-escalate a situation when a student may be getting upset, may need more supports, building those skills in so that it doesn't come to a spot where it's a big crisis and we're doing an evacuation from a classroom or anything like that, working on skills to keep those students in the classroom and de-escalated. And, you know, we have had a lot of students, or we've had a lot of teachers that have taken the training and are like, wow, we didn't like, wow, we think more people should have this training. And so we are slowly working on building that. So Amy Gotham and Jen Tuggy are our main trainers for our district, and they do a really nice job training the staff as we go through.
Does that take place during the summer months or fall? Or?
We do offer it in the summer. So we offer in the summer. We also offer usually at least one full training during the school year. We try, it's hard because you don't want to take them out of their classrooms all the time, but sometimes we do need to have, depending on the student's needs, some of our staff have to be trained in this. And so we need to make sure they get trained, and that's usually happens in the fall. But we do offer a summer training, and then staff are refreshed. So if you're trained, it's a 4-day training, the full training, and then each year staff are refreshed. They have to retest, and they have to practice pieces of the training again. So that happens every year.
I would assume there's a variety at both the elementary and middle high school.
Mhm. We do have Friday.
I think that's your last one.
I think that is it. Do you have other just questions for me?
Mr. Chairman, have we pretty much gotten back to quote normal since the pandemic situation with a perturbation on the regular school year and the kids?
I think there's probably still lasting effects, but I wouldn't say that I think that there's still students catching up. There's still students working in those pieces, but I think overall, I feel like we're pretty back to normal and in the groove of what we're doing. It's just now building back some of those skills that they have missed. But I don't, students are coming to school, do you know what I mean? Like at least for under special education, students are coming to school where that was a big thing, getting them back in the building once they've been out for a little bit. And I don't see those pieces like I did when we first started to come.
And I think also that at least a huge benefit for us locally, we were only closed for 3 months, that spring of 2020.
Yeah.
And you compare it to districts across the country that were out for a year and a half, that we have that benefit for sure.
We ran in-house summer school that summer.
Yeah.
Like we had ESY programming going. I think we're probably one of the only ones to have it in-person ESY, but we had it that summer. So those students that really had those high needs were able to come back and be in the building even sooner. So it was less of an impact than some districts.
No. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, thank you for your support. Thank you for all that you do to, just keep us running and keep us going. And I appreciate your time that you take to be here. And thanks. If you have questions, Tim always knows where to find me too.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
And Sarah, please don't be polite. You have a very busy person, so you leave when it's convenient for yourself.
Excused.
Now.
We're not that interesting.
I usually say.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you all. Oh,
Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit to go to the cause. Was there anybody here in that?
No, there was not.
Okay. Also, under information for the public, I don't see anything listed this evening. Which then moves us on to our report section that we're all waiting for. So Dana, take it away with the budget performance
All right,
report.
so first one, budget performance reports. This is as of December 5th. In terms of our numbers, you can see no real major difference from this month to last month. We're trending about 4.5% higher in expenditures this year than last year. You'll notice a couple negatives, salaries being one. A difference of about $6,000, but I can assure you that's all in timing in terms of when payroll was last year versus this year, because the $370,000 difference as of July 5th is not what it is as of December 5th, as it is December 10th. So when I look today, we're about $1 million higher than where we were last year. So really, again, it comes down to, it's always about timing. When I pull this report and when things happen. So, but we're trending about 4.5% in terms of increase in expenditures over last year, and that is kind of what we built the budget on. So no major concerns at this moment in time. Same as with revenue, you can see that We're trending at just under just about 3.75% increase in revenue. That's what we budgeted, so nothing there. You can see a big number, so only good is 118%. That's not really, that's just charges of services when from, things come in, rental properties, things like that. So, last year we had a little more money that came in at this, around this time, up to this point in terms of rental properties, things paying, from Ironman, from Classic, from Summit Lacrosse. Those are our big drivers in terms of money that we generate from the use of our properties. Otherwise, we are pretty much on par with what we normally are doing. So, questions about expenditures and revenue for the month?
Treasury report, please. David.
Treasury report looks very similar to last month in terms of still flush with cash in the first box. We're sitting at nearly $18 million in our MyClass unrestricted, so we are generating some good revenue there, some good interest. If you look at it, that is typically where you would see our use of money on the previous reports in terms of how much we've generated so far up to this point. So more money we have in that category, that's where we generate it. But we'll slowly siphon that off as we pay our bills. This is where you're seeing our cash receipts was only about $405,000, but yet our disbursement was $1.2 million. So we're starting to see that switch where we've generated already about 80% of our revenue, and now we're just kind of spending what we've collected through property taxes. So this is where you're going to see. Going forward, our disbursements will be higher than our cash receipts because of the nature of where we get our revenue. Surprisingly, our outstanding checks, you can see, is probably one of the lowest numbers I've seen in a long time, only about $85,000. Normally, that's anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000. So when I saw them, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is great. In terms of our vendors and things like that. Cashing the checks that we send out. So, but I'll say, if you look at it, again, we are still, very much in a good, healthy spot when it comes to our cash and all that. And for that, the last meeting from Telling Associates. So, questions on the treasury report?
Dana, our last report, operations
Yes,
report. Please.
operations, a little update. Yep. Last month I did update you guys on the auditorium. This is an additional update. Thursday, we have our pre-bid meeting. So Mosaic, our architect firm, will be here. And basically all this pre-bid meeting is any potential contractors that want to put a bid in, they can come and they can get a walkthrough of the auditorium just to see the actual space before submitting a bid. At this point, only one contractor has actually paid Mosaic for the copies of the plan. So the contractor can go in and physically, look at them, view them at Mosaic's office free of charge. But if they want a digital copy, they have to pay Mosaic for that copy. So only one has actually done that. Multiple contractors have called and asked additional questions. But I think the bid opening is not until early January. So we still have about a month left before the bid process and about that. So that's Thursday. We'll get a better indicator if there's anyone that's, any contractor. One of the contractors that did, the one contractor is a local contractor. I say local, North Country. In that regard, not World Class specific, that has paid for it. So my guess is we at least have one contractor. We'll probably submit a bid. Because why would you pay the fee to look at it if you're not really interested? But you never know. We won't know until early January. One other update just for today. So a couple of meetings ago, I talked about how we were probably looking at, we were going to buy a 15-passenger van to give us some more flexibility in transporting students. And that is gotten to the dealership today, so we're now in the process. We should take delivery of it on Monday. And then we gotta go through getting it registered and getting it lettered so that it has all of our information on it. But hopefully by the beginning of the new year, we will have a black 15 passenger van that will be at the disposal of our transportation department and or staff for an occasional use. So it gives us additional flexibility. It doubles the capacity that we'll have, because right now we have the white bus that can only hold 7 or 8 students. This will be able to hold 14 students. So that will give us greater flexibility. But that's what I have currently for operations.
Great, thank you. Any comments?
No, thanks, Dana. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, moving on to Tim's superintendent report.
All right, so there's always things going on, particularly this time of year. So I'll just kind of go through some of the highlights. And then I do have an addendum to this, just some instructional focus areas for the 14 departments in the district that I just wanted to share with the board. So you kind of got a sense of where we're moving academically over the course of the year. But just in terms of the enrichment and opportunity side of the house, our 5th grade trip to Proctor's that we referenced with the board last time and invited everyone to go if they so wished was a great success. They attended the MJ musical. The students had a blast. Obviously it's MJ, so they're going to drop a moonwalk, and the kids pretty much lost their mind when that happened. So it was a good time. Many of them indicated to me in my conversations that going to the diner afterwards was the best part. So there you go. We'll take what we can get. Glad to provide those opportunities. I did want to give a shout out to Aldo. Anyone who was watching Essex County, New York roads on Facebook with bated breath may have known that the weather was dicey that evening. And Aldo is a boss when it comes to his prowess in the snow. So from Chapel Pond to Lake Placid, he definitely navigated the roads and got the kids home safe. So we commend him and Miss Majorca and Miss Franklin and Mr. Fermanti for trusting in the process and keeping the kids calm during that ride. So it's good.
Good heavens.
So as I referenced, of course, we're knee deep in holiday mode. The elementary school has their Fun Semper calendar that is operational. The middle high school has their Christmas season calendar of events and themes for the staff and students too. We have productions that are ongoing and being prepared for. So tomorrow really kicks things off. We have our K-2 art show at the Lake Placid Library, which is great. And then from there, the middle school music and art show will take place tomorrow as well at 6. Actually, people can access it at 5:30 if they want to see just the art first in the foyer. And then we move ahead a week and we have the high school music and art show with the same model of art in the foyer and music in the auditorium. We have the holiday tree lighting that's taking place on Saturday at Mintz Park at 4 o'clock. And then we'll be providing music for that. And then at the elementary school, they have the Whiteface Lodge Day, which is always a good day for the kids to watch movies and ice skate and do crafts and cookies. So lots of good stuff. I did reference in my report as well, just an attachment that something new that Community Schools is doing. So building on the success of the staycation that we've done in April break the last 2 years, we've expanded it to just some free opportunities for kids over the prolonged 2-week break for the winter holiday. So kids can go to the Palace Theater for a free movie if they want, a free game of bowling at Big Z's, and a free entrance to the Wild Lights exhibit at the Wild Center. So they can do all of those things if they so wish, or just the ones that they're able.
Tim, do they just simply say I'm a student, or do they have to show something?
They're gonna you sign up, you get a pass.
Okay.
And then at the end, we just coordinate with the businesses, and however many passes they actually collect is what we'll pay them
Oh, it's
for.
really nice. It's again a great opportunity.
Yeah. And Mr. Clark has, of course, been busy gathering folks for our annual community classes again. So our painting classes, we offered 3 of them this year, and we had 33 participants. We have a boxing for fitness class. We offered 2 of those for the community, and 16 participants attended. We had a fly tying class. we offered 2 of them and had 10 participants. Always the dominant one in terms of participation is the holiday decor, offering 3 classes with 65 participants, which is great. And cooking classes, had 2 of those with 20 participants. So we commend all of our instructors and participants for coming into our buildings. It's great. This evening and also on Thursday, we have Latin dance classes being provided by one of our 11th grade students, Laura Guerrero Ruiz. So the salsa dance classes she's offering are $5 per person. The proceeds go to the class of 2026. So I'd like to just thank Laura for doing that, bringing that opportunity to our kids and community members. I also want to thank Mary Smith, our ENL teacher, and Jen Lawrence, our Spanish teacher, for supporting her in this endeavor. We have a art project that has come to fruition at Mount Van Hoevenberg. You may recall a few years ago that tile work was done at the emergency services building down the hill. And in the spirit of that, now on Friday on the track, there will be a reveal of a mural done at Mount Van Hoevenberg, where all of the students in the middle high school and elementary school each completed a tile, and through artistry, we're able to create a mural. So we're excited to see that, and the students are all invited and are planning to go for the unveiling, which is great. Let's talk about crushing cans for a second. So more fun from Mr. Baker and his science students. So as they began the year, the students noticed that there was not a lot of recycling going on with the aluminum cans. And so they concocted a solution. They bought an aluminum can crusher and mounted it to the wall, and then put a double-sided bin up that students could use their crush cans for to vote on a controversial question each week. And so it has basically eliminated the concern with recycling now. And as Dana referenced to me, our food service director said our canned purchases, canned items was up like 20%. So democracy has not died here like Placid. They have weighed in on subjects such as dogs versus cats and Taylor Swift versus Beyonce. But the fun part, of course, is that the kids are engaged and trying to solve real world problems here for us. So commend those students and Mr. Baker. And if you were on the Facebook page maybe last week, there was even an exercise bike that was being used for the purpose of crushing these cans too. So not too bad. Next week, Keith Clark and I will be meeting with members of the Alumni Association just to discuss ways that we can try and partner with them to make a better and deeper connection with their students. So looking forward to that. I know that was an area that the board had referenced in its goals for community outreach. And then just diverging from my report for a minute, I just wanted to give you an update on those instructional department priorities that we have. So our 6 through 12 science department, our department leader is Tammy Morgan. And Tammy and her department have been working very closely on preparing for the shift in the standards in New York State with the different science classes that are at the high school level. So there's brand new exams that are being rolled out across the state. So they've been working closely. They went to the Stanies conference earlier in the year, and that allowed them to identify other schools that were kind of early adopters of preparing for these new exams. And now they are working on networking with those schools to create a regional grading network for those tests, which will be a priority for them come June. So we commend Ms. Morgan and her department for all that work. Mr. Fermonti, John Fermonti at the K through 5 level is both our social studies and our science department leader. And they've been focusing also on these science standards as well. There are a series of investigations that New York State now requires with the science exams. And these 4 different investigations must take place at the elementary level between grades 3 and 5. And so trying to map out when the best time to give 4 of these investigations has been a challenge for the elementary school. At times you can theoretically offer the investigations to like all 3, 4, and 5 students at the same time, but then you're going to have to differentiate for those levels. So they're working through those issues, but it's a challenge. So I applaud their efforts with regards to that. Our PE department, they are working on teaching skills in a uniform manner K through 12, and what they refer to as like building a curriculum of modern physical education. And so the notion is that if floor hockey is taught in K through 5, then floor hockey, those skills will be built the same way in 6 through 12. So it's allowing for good conversation between Ms. Patinella at the elementary school and our middle high school teachers as well. Our K through 5 math department is led by Amanda Blacksmith, and they are working on some of the gap areas that students continue to show, such as number sense, a limited grasp of key concepts such as telling time and counting money. So kind of important to be able to account for your time and money in this world, and so they're working on creating references for the students in different grade levels for that. Our 6 through 12 math department is led by Cass Mariano, and Miss Mariano and the team also got to attend the math conference in New York State, which they found to be very valuable. This department is really working on honing in the curriculum that they use so that it's consistent and cohesive between the different grade levels. But to be completely honest, they've had some change in that department. They have 2 new members, with Mr. Longrod and Ms. Hampson being part of it. So they're also focusing on just department dynamics, just trying to work well together. Our K through 5 special education department is led by Mel Frazier, and they are working closely. In each year we have our department goals, and then the departments work towards them and then share the fruits of their efforts with colleagues on our Impact Day in May. And this is the first year that we've rolled our teaching assistants into this planning process as well. So both special education departments, a majority of our teaching assistants work closely with our special education departments. So at K through 5, they're working on creating kind of like just a professional development micro group basically amongst themselves, where each time they meet, they bring a different article or practice that they've found, and then the group talks about how they want to enact it in different ways. So in some of these departments, it's very easy to find commonality, but then when you talk about a department composed of all K through 5 special education teachers and itinerant providers and service providers, finding commonality can be challenging. So this is some of the things that they've been able to do. At the 6 through 12 special education department level, that team is led by Amy Gotham, and that department is working on parent communication. So one of the areas that I talked about on our opening day was just recognizing that parents value continuous communication, and that the parent game is in many ways not getting easier. So they've been really trying to increase their parent communication proactively and are looking to see if there's a correlation between positive student outcomes and the amount of communication. So hopefully that will bear fruit. Our world language department is led by Kara Atkinson, and they are discussing the goal of incorporating the seal of biliteracy to our graduation offerings. And so I appreciate this conversation, especially because the seal of biliteracy is an additional accreditation that a graduate can have, and it basically shows your prowess with multiple languages. And oftentimes, we're a district that hovers around 20 to 25 English language learning students. And so when we think about the curriculum, we often have a deficit mindset about having to impart, the content to students. And first also impart the English language to them, but we're not leveraging the fact that these students come here with a different language and are completely fluent in it. And so they're perfect candidates to receive this additional accreditation that shows that they have fluency both in English and in their home language. So they're trying to merge those 2 things together, which I think is great. Our 6 through 12 English department is led by Angie Carlisto, And the English department is continuing its goal from last year. They are trying to map out all of the key books and content that students encounter year to year. And so that this living document provides some degree of surety for the department so that as retirements happen down the road or as new members join the team, that they always have a sense of what a continuous English curriculum looks like. So that's a vast undertaking that they're doing, and they're doing it very well. Our fine arts department is led by Alan Robinson, and this team is looking to try and measure student growth to a greater degree. They also are looking to attend the New York State Conference next year. They did go last year. And this fine arts department is composed of both our art classes and our music department as well. They're adjoined. And the music teachers are focusing on incorporating a program called We Are Instrumental, which promotes access to the use of instrumentation at an early age. I'm almost done, I appreciate your patience. We have 14 departments, so that's a lot. Our library and tech department is led by Carissa Merrihew, and they have two goals that they're working on. The first is continuing to promote the utility of AI with our staff and students, and they're doing that very well. The second thing is we use a lot of softwares in the school district, and the goal has been to try and identify the experts of different software so that they can be leveraged when people come on and they need to use that, and we don't necessarily know who the expert is in those areas. And then just three other quick updates here. Our mental health team is led by Connie Hamaker. This spans both buildings, it's K through 12. And they are really focusing on, it's a long summation here, so I need to make sure. And just making sure that the social emotional learning standards that have been officially put in place this year in New York State are both understood and are being incorporated in the same way across the district. So we appreciate all their hard work. Our K through 5 team for ELA is led by Buffy Majorca, and that team is steeped in the deep work of the science of reading. So we have the new Amplify curriculum that is in place, and they are reviewing the curriculum. One of the things that we've done with our implementation of our Amplify program is we've asked the teachers to teach the program with complete fidelity, not to have deviations, so that we can identify the things that communally we think should be adjusted or amended or supplemented or removed in the following years, and to not have it become something where the uniformity that we're trying to achieve in instructing the kids, that if we make changes, that those are done uniformly as well. So I really appreciate the patience of this department and the K through 5 staff in adhering to the sort of the rigidity of the program, because it's an undertaking, but it's all backed by the science of reading, and the goal is to have a program that we can build year over year. And our final department is our social studies department at the 6 through 12 level, and they're looking at finding different ways to get students hooked on history. So they're giving students more choices in different ways that they can show their knowledge of particular areas of history. And they're looking at our Regents data to spend more time with the students on areas that they may need additional support. So lots of instructional undertakings happening in the district. I often find when I do my superintendent's reports, I'm telling you about the parades, but I want to make sure I'm telling you about the instruction too. So
Very detailed.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to information for the board. There is the extracurricular activity report that's under public content, and there's a couple of areas under executive content for everyone to review at your leisure. Moving on to a discussion regarding a anticipated board workshop retreat that we're hoping to hold in January. Right now, I believe we're looking for a suitable venue. I'm not sure where we'll end up, but I don't know if Tim, you or Karen have any thoughts, but
Yeah, I think, there's no lack of options in Lake Placid, thankfully, so I think we should be able to find something that'll work, but the goal of, the workshop is just to spend a little time together, just reviewing some of the different, laws that are evolving in New York State regarding, schools. So, our attorney, Douglas Gerhardt, has offered to provide this for us, so I think it'll be a valuable opportunity, and also to try and, address one of the few areas in the board's self-evaluation that came up is just that we haven't had a retreat or a workshop in some time, so trying to meld something that's both educational but also social in nature. So that's the goal. So January 14th is the date that we've isolated, and January is our last month where we have just one board meeting planned. So it's opportune for that.
oh, it's great. Post-holiday and have more time to focus. Minutes of the Board of Education was under consent. Moving on to personnel consent agenda, recommended action. Approve the following items, which are included in the consent agenda. 7B, amendment to appointment of extracurricular activity coordinators for 24-25. And 7C, appointment of additional winter coach for the 24-25 season. May I have a motion, please?
Big motion. I'll second. Not really do this.
Any discussion? If not, please vote.
Aye.
We have 6 yes.
Moving on to 8, additional action items. A, B, C, D, and E are all under previous consent, which leaves us with special education.
That's under consent.
Recommended action.
It's already in, right?
Yeah, it's
I'm
already in.
Eight is all in, I believe.
Oh, okay, I didn't have that.
It's not listed either. Good.
Wow.
Hit refresh.
Right?
They got switched it, yes.
Okay. In any event,
Yes.
apparently all items
Yes.
under additional action items were in previous consent. So with that said, we'll move on to the second good of the cause. Anyone, Karen?
No.
None. Going on to linking goals with agenda items. Who has some things? I know you all do.
I would think posting of the honor roll to students first and foremost.
Yeah, I will say that I had
Awesome.
quite a few families that I heard from that are very happy that on some level that a previous practice that we did forever was reinstated. And I did see it on the Facebook page, and I think that just acknowledging those students that have worked hard for honor and high honor roll should be stated. So that's great.
Caused a rift in my house because somebody missed it by 1 point. So now we're working extra hard.
There you
So.
go. Motivation.
Yeah, a little motivation.
No, I think it's great. So that's who else has got things? I'm sure we all do.
The opportunities for kids over the break, students first and foremost.
That could fall under community outreach too, with all of the community programs that Keith is doing through community schools. Yeah, John, do you have anything?
No.
If there's any additional ones, parents always excited to hear about the extra ones. Next meeting date and location, the informal board retreat is anticipated January 14th, and then our actual next board meeting is January 21st. Do we have any old agenda topics? How about new agenda topics?
I have one. I sent an email today to the board and to Tim, in regards to some winter carnival stuff. I've had a lot of alumni, past and present, come to me and talk about why we discontinued the snowball off. I was just looking for a reason. I think it was one of those traditions that I look forward to as a kid growing up, and you know, why we moved the week of Winter Carnival to March when it was traditionally held in February. And I thought that was really great that you had in your report that you're gonna meet with the Alumni Association. That's kind of cool. And that was just coincidence. I didn't peep the the agenda before I sent the email, so.
No, I think, Ryan, I think you bring up a good point, because we all get cornered walking around the
Yeah.
lake or in Price Chopper about why are we not doing this or this anymore? And I think we're obviously, like many communities, we're steeped in tradition, and sometimes when we let some of that tradition go the wayside, I know that some of us here are alumni. There's 3 of us sitting here at the table. And I remember the huge mounds of snow that was on the top of the hill where freshmen through senior year did these snow sculptures. And the students went out on their lunch break or open classes. They work on the snow sculptures. They were all voted upon. So again, you know, we do have a pretty good alumni base here in Lake Placid, and they look for things like that. And I think it's important to remember those things.
Right, absolutely.
All right, then I guess we are moving to the adjournment phase. May I have a motion to adjourn at 5:57 PM? We have Ryan, second one.
I'll second.
And, I do want to say very quickly that we're not meeting again until after the holidays. So a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, not only to all of our board members, but to the students, our district personnel, and to the families. Best wishes to everyone, and thank you.
Yeah,
You
thank
too.
And everybody can say aye to vote.
Aye.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Don. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you too, Don.
Thanks all.